Some people are born with every advantage: wealth, connections, a last name that opens doors before they even knock. And some people believe those advantages make them untouchable. Meet Chase Holloway, 24 years old, son of Governor Thomas Holloway of Rhode Island. Trust fund kid, private school graduate, never heard the word no in his entire privileged life. He walks into Providence Municipal Court on a humid Thursday morning, wearing a smirk that says he's already won. His designer polo, Vineyard Vines 120, is perfectly pressed. His Ray-Ban sunglasses hang from his collar. His boat shoes, no socks, naturally, squeak against the courthouse tile. In his hand, his phone, recording a video. "This is gonna be hilarious," he whispers to his fraternity brother in the gallery. "Watch me get out of this." He doesn't lower his voice. He wants people to hear him. The bailiff asks him to turn off his phone. Chase rolls his eyes, holds up one finger. "Just a sec," and finishes his Instagram story before pocketing it with exaggerated slowness. "Happy now," he says with mock innocence. What this young man doesn't know is that in exactly 14 minutes, Judge Frank Caprio will deliver a sentence so perfectly crafted, so publicly humiliating, and so absolutely deserved that it will make Chase Holloway wish he'd never stepped foot in that courtroom. The video will reach 90 million views. The governor will be forced to issue a public statement, and Chase Holloway will learn the hardest lesson of his privileged life. What happens next will become one of the most talked about moments in courtroom history. The Providence Municipal Court is busy this morning. Working class people waiting for their cases to be called. Single parents juggling kids and paperwork. Elderly residents squinting at court documents. People who took time off, work they probably can't afford to lose. And then there's Chase Holloway, lounging in the defendant's chair like it's a beach lounger, scrolling through his phone again. Behind the bench sits Judge Frank Caprio, known for his compassion, his fairness, and his deep respect for every person who enters his courtroom. His silver hair catches the fluorescent light. His reading glasses perch on his nose as he reviews the morning's cases. He's the judge who's forgiven tickets for struggling families. The judge who's paid fines out of his own pocket for people who couldn't afford them. The judge whose kindness has been viewed hundreds of millions of times online. But kindness, as Judge Caprio often reminds people, should never be confused with weakness. Case number 3924. The clerk announces, Rhode Island versus Chase Alexander Holloway. Reckless driving, driving under the influence, leaving the scene of an accident, resisting arrest, and disorderly conduct. Several people in the gallery gasp. That's not a traffic ticket, that's a crime spree. Chase stands up slowly, deliberately taking his time. He doesn't walk to the podium. He saunters, like this is all beneath him. Judge Caprio looks up from the file, his expression neutral, but his eyes already assessing. Mr. Holloway. Judge Caprio begins in his characteristic calm tone. These are serious charges. Do you understand the nature of— Yeah, I get it. Chase interrupts, waving his hand dismissively. But here's the thing, Your Honor, and I mean this with all due respect. This is all a big misunderstanding. Judge Caprio's eyes narrow slightly. He sets down his pen with deliberate care. A misunderstanding. Totally, Chase says, flashing that practiced smile that's probably gotten him out of trouble 1,000 times before. See, I was driving home from a party. After drinking. The prosecutor interjects, standing up. Assistant Prosecutor James Martinez holds up a police report. Mr. Holloway's blood alcohol content was 0.14, almost twice the legal limit. I had like 2 beers, Chase protests. Those breathalyzer things are never accurate. My dad always says. Your father, Judge Caprio says quietly, is not relevant to this. Proceeding. Chase's smile doesn't falter. Well, actually, Your Honor, he kind of is. My father is Governor Thomas Holloway. I'm sure you've heard of him. He's doing amazing things for this state. Really amazing things. He says this like he's reminding the judge of an important fact he might have overlooked. The courtroom goes quiet. Several people exchange uncomfortable glances. Judge Caprio removes his glasses slowly. Mr. Holloway, I'm aware of who your father is. Now, let's discuss what you did on the night of August 14th. Right. Chase says, still casual, still confident. So I was driving home, and this other car. Totally not my fault. This other car comes out of nowhere. What Chase Holloway doesn't realize is that Judge Caprio has already reviewed every detail of his case. The police report, the witness statements, the dashcam footage from the police cruiser, and what the judge has seen has disturbed him deeply. Mr. Holloway, Prosecutor Martinez begins, let me clarify the events of that night for the court. At approximately 11:47 p.m., you were driving your vehicle, a BMW M4 registered to your father, at 73 miles per hour in a 35-mile-per-hour residential zone. The speed limit signs in that area are really unclear, Chase offers. You ran a red light at the intersection of Hope and Angel Street. Martinez continues, ignoring the interruption. Where you struck another vehicle, a 2008 Honda Civic driven by Maria Santos, a nurse returning home from her shift at Rhode Island Hospital. A woman in the gallery, Maria Santos herself, sits with her arm in a sling, her face bruised. Mrs. Santos sustained a fractured wrist, 3 cracked ribs, and a concussion. Martinez continues. Her vehicle was totaled. Chase glances at Maria for the first time. His expression shows not remorse, but annoyance. I'm sorry she got hurt or whatever, he says with a shrug. But insurance will cover it. That's what insurance is for, right? Judge Caprio leans forward. Mr. Holloway, after the collision, what did you do? I tried to help. Chase lies, and it's so transparent that several court officers shake their heads. You fled the scene. Prosecutor Martinez says sharply. You didn't check on Mrs. Santos. You didn't call 911. You didn't even stop your vehicle. You drove another 2 miles before Officer Patricia Chen pulled you over. I was in shock. Chase protests. I wasn't thinking clearly. Officer Chen's report states that when she approached your vehicle, you were on your phone texting. Martinez reads from the document. When she asked for your license and registration, you said, and I quote, "Do you know who my father is? This is going to be really embarrassing for you when he finds out you pulled me over." Murmurs ripple through the courtroom. Someone in the back mutters, "Unbelievable." Chase's face flushes slightly, but he doubles down. I was trying to explain that there had been a mistake. When Officer Chen administered the field sobriety test, which you failed, you became verbally abusive. Martinez continues. You called her a quota-filling bureaucrat. You told her she was wasting taxpayer money. You attempted to call your father 4 times during the arrest. And when Officer Chen attempted to place you in handcuffs, you physically resisted, requiring backup assistance from 2 additional officers. The prosecutor holds up photos. Chase struggling against officers. Chase's middle finger raised toward the camera. Chase's sneering face as he's placed in the patrol car. Judge Caprio studies these photos in silence. The courtroom falls into complete silence. Mr. Holloway, Judge Caprio finally says, "Do you have anything to say about these actions?" Chase takes a deep breath, and for a moment, it seems like he might actually show remorse. But then he speaks. "Your Honor, I think we all need to consider context here. I'm a good person. I volunteer sometimes. I donate to charities. I'm not some criminal. This is one mistake, one bad night, and honestly, it's being blown way out of proportion because of who my family is. People are always trying to take down my dad, and this is just another example." He gains confidence as he speaks, standing straighter. "And honestly, that nurse," he gestures dismissively toward Maria, "she should be thanking me. My father's office has already reached out with a settlement offer that's probably more money than she makes in a year. We're being generous. But instead, she's here, trying to make a scene, trying to embarrass my family for political reasons." The gasp that goes through the courtroom is audible. Maria Santos's eyes fill with tears, but she holds her head high. Judge Caprio sets down the photos very carefully. His jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. "Mr. Holloway," he says quietly, "did you just suggest that the victim of your drunk driving should be grateful?" I'm just saying, Chase begins. And did you just accuse Mrs. Santos, a nurse who serves this community, of having political motivations? People do crazy things for money and attention, Chase says with a shrug. I'm just being realistic. An older man in the gallery stands up. This kid is unbelievable, he shouts before the bailiff asks him to sit down. Chase pulls out his phone again, and starts recording. This is harassment, he says into the camera. This judge is clearly biased against my family. This whole proceeding is, bailiff, Judge Caprio says firmly. Confiscate that phone. Now. The bailiff moves forward. Chase pulls the phone away. You can't take my property. I know my rights. My father's lawyer said, your phone is now evidence in a contempt of court charge. Judge Caprio says, his voice like steel wrapped in velvet. You were asked twice to turn it off. You've now used it to record these proceedings without permission and to make accusations against this court. The bailiff takes the phone. Chase's face goes red. This is bullshit, he shouts. Do you know who I am? This moment will change everything. Judge Frank Caprio has been on the bench for 34 years. He's seen entitled people before. Wealthy people who thought money could buy them out of consequences. Connected people who dropped names like currency. But he's never seen someone stand in his courtroom, insult a victim, invoke their parents' position, and then have the audacity to claim harassment when held accountable. Judge Caprio stands up. The entire courtroom freezes. In 3 decades on the bench, Judge Caprio almost never stands during proceedings. When he does, it means something significant is about to happen. Mr. Holloway, he begins, and his voice fills every corner of the room with quiet authority. I've been a judge for 34 years. I've presided over more than 250,000 cases. I've seen people at their absolute worst. I've seen people consumed by addiction, people destroyed by poverty, people who've made terrible mistakes in desperate circumstances. He pauses, letting his words settle like snow. But I have never, in all my years on this bench, seen someone with as many advantages as you display such contempt for the people around you. Such complete lack of accountability. Such absolute absence of character. Chase opens his mouth to speak, but Judge Caprio holds up one hand. I'm not finished. The command in his voice makes Chase snap his mouth shut. You drove drunk. You could have killed Mrs. Santos. You could have killed a family. You could have killed a child. And when confronted with this reality, you fled like a coward. You invoked your father's name like a magic spell that makes consequences disappear. You insulted a police officer doing her job. You physically resisted arrest. Judge Caprio picks up the case file, holding it up for the courtroom to see. And then, you come into MY courtroom, interrupt the proceedings, record without permission, and suggest that the victim of your crime should be grateful for the privilege of being hit by you. He sets the file down with a heavy thud. Mr. Holloway, you've spent your entire life being told you're special, that rules don't apply to you, that your last name is a shield against consequences. Today that ends. Chase's confident expression has finally cracked. His face is pale. His hands are shaking. Your Honor, I didn't mean. You meant exactly what you said. Judge Caprio cuts him off. People like you always do. You believe the things that come out of your mouth because you've never been forced to examine them, never been challenged, never been held accountable. The judge sits back down, and somehow that's even more intimidating than when he was standing. You invoked your father's name 14 times during your arrest and booking. You said, "Do you know who I am?" 6 times. You acted as if being the governor's son made you royalty. Judge Caprio's eyes narrow slightly. So let me tell you what's going to happen, Mr. Holloway. Since you're so proud of your father's position, since you believe it defines who you are, I'm going to give you a sentence that ensures everyone knows exactly who you are. The courtroom is so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Every eye is on Judge Caprio. Every ear strains to hear what comes next. Chase Holloway, for the first time in his life, looks genuinely afraid. For the charge of driving under the influence, I'm imposing the maximum penalty allowed by law. Judge Caprio begins. A $1,000 fine, mandatory alcohol education classes, and a 12-month license suspension. Chase's lawyer starts to object, but Judge Caprio continues without pause. For reckless driving and leaving the scene of an accident, an additional $2,500 in fines, and your vehicle, your father's vehicle, will be impounded for 6 months. You can't take my car. Chase bursts out. It's not your car. Judge Caprio reminds him coldly. It's your father's, and when he retrieves it in 6 months, he can explain to you why actions have consequences. For resisting arrest and contempt of court, I'm adding 30 days in county jail. The courtroom erupts. Chase's face goes white. His lawyer jumps up. Your Honor, that's... However, Judge Caprio continues, raising his voice slightly. I'm willing to suspend the jail time on one condition. Mr. Holloway will complete 500 hours of community service. Not just any community service. He pulls out a document, already prepared, and begins reading. You will spend 200 hours working with Rhode Island Hospital's emergency room staff, specifically assisting in the trauma bay where drunk driving victims are treated. You will see firsthand what happens to people when someone like you gets behind the wheel impaired. Chase is shaking his head. No way. I'm not. You will spend 150 hours working with the Providence Police Department's DUI task force, where you will assist in public awareness campaigns, set up checkpoints, and participate in presentations at high schools about the dangers of drunk driving. That's humiliating. Chase protests. That's the point. Judge Caprio responds without sympathy. And for the remaining 150 hours, you will work with Mothers Against Drunk Driving, where you will listen to the stories of families who've lost loved ones to drunk drivers. You will help with their advocacy work. You will attend victim impact panels. Judge Caprio leans forward, his gaze pinning Chase like a butterfly to a board. But here's the most important part, Mr. Holloway. For the entire duration of your community service, for every single one of those 500 hours, you will wear a bright orange vest that says Community Service on the back and DUI Offender on the front. Chase's mouth drops open. You can't make me. I can and I am. You wanted everyone to know who you are. Congratulations. Now they will. And furthermore, Judge Caprio continues, you are required to complete all of your community service in Providence and the surrounding areas, not in some distant town where no one knows you. Right here, where your father governs, where your family name is recognized, where people will see you and understand that the governor's son is not above the law. The judge signs the order with firm, deliberate strokes. Every week, you will submit a log of your hours, signed by your supervisors, detailing what you've learned. And every month, you will appear before me in this courtroom to provide an update on your progress. Those appearances will be public record. Anyone can attend. The media can film them. Chase looks like he might vomit. My father will. Your father will what? Judge Caprio asks sharply. Call me? Pressure me? Threaten my position? Mr. Holloway, I'm 77 years old. I've been serving this community since before you were born. I don't fear your father. I don't fear anyone. I fear only failing in my duty to deliver justice. He picks up his gavel. Additionally, you are ordered to pay full restitution to Mrs. Santos for her medical bills, lost wages, and vehicle replacement. The total comes to $47,000. Your insurance may cover some of it. You'll cover the rest. And you cannot use your father's money. You'll get a job, a real job, and pay it yourself. I don't have that kind of money. Chase protests. Then I suggest you start working. Judge Caprio says flatly. Mrs. Santos didn't have the luxury of choosing whether or not to be hit by you. You don't get to choose whether or not to face consequences. He raises the gavel. Do you understand the sentence, Mr. Holloway? Chase is speechless. His lawyer whispers something in his ear. Finally, in a small voice, Chase says, Yes. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Judge Caprio says, Yes, Your Honor. Chase says louder, his voice cracking. The gavel comes down like a thunderclap. Court is adjourned. Mr. Holloway, you will report for your first community service assignment this Saturday at 6 a.m. Don't be late. As Chase Holloway stumbles out of the courtroom, his swagger replaced by shock, his smirk replaced by disbelief. He has no idea that his nightmare is just beginning, because multiple people in that courtroom have been recording. Rhode Island is a one-party consent state for recording, and courtroom proceedings are public record. A local news reporter has captured the entire proceeding. A law student has it on his phone. A court advocate has recorded it for training purposes. By 3 p.m. that afternoon, less than 5 hours after the verdict, the video is on YouTube with the title, "Governor's Son Gets Destroyed in Court After Using Dad's Name." By 6 p.m., it has 500,000 views. By midnight, it's reached 5 million. Within 48 hours, the video has exploded across every conceivable platform: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, legal analysis channels, political commentary shows. Within hours, the video goes viral, trends nationally, reaches 25 million impressions, becomes a meme. CNN runs a segment. Fox News debates it. MSNBC analyzes the political implications for Governor Holloway. Local Providence stations camp outside the courthouse. Judge delivers epic sentence to governor's son. Providence Journal, when privilege meets justice. Judge Caprio teaches governor's son about accountability. Boston Globe, this judge's response to "Do you know who my father is?" is perfect. Washington Post, the comments flood in by the hundreds of thousands. This is what justice looks like. No special treatment. Equal application of law. Perfect. I'm a recovering alcoholic who hurt someone while drunk driving. I wish I'd had a judge like this who forced me to confront what I'd done. The orange vest is genius. He can't hide. He can't pretend it didn't happen. He has to face his community. Judge Caprio is a national treasure. He didn't just punish this kid. He's forcing him to grow up. But the attention brings consequences that Chase never imagined. His fraternity brothers, who thought his arrest was hilarious, suddenly want nothing to do with him. Sorry, bro, you're bad for the house's image. His friends from prep school go silent. Group chats he's been in for years suddenly exclude him. His girlfriend breaks up with him via text. I can't be with someone everyone sees as a joke. And then there's his family. Governor Thomas Holloway is forced to hold a press conference. I love my son, the governor says, looking tired and defeated. But Judge Caprio was absolutely right. Chase's behavior was unacceptable. The law applies to everyone equally, including, especially my family. I support the judge's decision completely, and I expect my son to fulfill every requirement of his sentence with humility and genuine effort. The press asks if he'll intervene. Absolutely not, the governor says firmly. If I taught my son that he could use my name to escape consequences, then I failed as a father. This is his opportunity to become the man I hoped he'd be. Chase's mother appears on local television, her eyes red from crying. As a mother, watching your child face consequences is painful. But as a citizen, I'm grateful that we have judges like Frank Caprio who hold everyone to the same standard. My son hurt someone. He could have killed someone. He needs to understand that. The political implications are massive. The governor's approval ratings actually go up by 12 points. Voters appreciate his refusal to interfere. Opposition politicians who were ready to attack him have nothing to say. He's handled it perfectly. But Chase tries to fight it. His lawyer files an appeal. The sentence is cruel and unusual punishment, specifically designed to humiliate the defendant. The appellate court takes exactly 4 days to reject it. The sentence is within legal guidelines and serves legitimate rehabilitative and deterrent purposes. Appeal denied. Chase tries to get community service hours outside Providence. I'll do double the hours if I can do them somewhere else. Judge Caprio's response. Request denied. The point is to face your community. On Saturday morning at 5:58 a.m., Chase Holloway shows up at Rhode Island Hospital wearing the orange vest. Photographers are waiting. The photos are on social media before he even walks in the door. Explodes again. The first month is hell for Chase Holloway. He works in the emergency room, and on his third shift, a drunk driving victim comes in. A teenage girl, 17 years old. Critical injuries. Her friends in the car died at the scene. Chase has to hold the parents back while the trauma team works. He hears the mother screaming. He sees the father collapse in grief. He watches the doctor's call time of death at 4:47 a.m. And for the first time in his life, Chase Holloway understands. He vomits in the bathroom afterward. He cries in his car in the parking lot. The supervisor who's documenting his hours finds him there. "This is why the judge sent you here," she says quietly. "So you'd understand that this isn't about laws and rules. It's about lives." At the DUI checkpoint, a drunk driver argues with police. "Come on, man, I only had a few. I'm fine to drive." Chase, in his orange vest, steps forward without being asked. "I said the same thing," he tells the driver. "And I hit a nurse who was just trying to get home from work. I shattered her wrist. I cracked her ribs. I gave her a concussion because I thought I was fine." The drunk driver looks at Chase's vest, at the cameras filming the checkpoint, at his own reflection in the police car window. "You're right," he says quietly. "I'll call an Uber." At the Mothers Against Drunk Driving meeting, Chase sits and listens to a father talk about his 8-year-old son who was killed by a drunk driver. The father shows pictures, birthday parties, Little League games. The last photo taken 2 hours before the crash. Chase can barely breathe. When the meeting ends, he approaches the father. "I'm so sorry," he says, his voice breaking. "I'm so sorry for your loss." "You're not the one who killed my son," the father says. "But you could have killed someone else's son. Promise me you'll never forget that." "I won't," Chase whispers. "I promise I won't." By month 3, something has shifted. Chase stops complaining, stops trying to hide, stops seeing the orange vest as punishment, and starts seeing it as responsibility. He starts arriving early to his community service assignments, staying late, asking questions, actually listening to the answers. When teenagers at high school presentations recognize him, "Hey, aren't you the governor's son?" he doesn't get defensive. "Yeah," he says, "I am. And I almost killed someone because I thought being the governor's son made me special. It doesn't. It just gave me advantages I didn't appreciate and didn't deserve. Don't make my mistakes." In month 4, Chase appears before Judge Caprio for his monthly update. "Your Honor," Chase says, standing straight, looking the judge in the eye, "I've completed 187 hours so far. I've worked with 12 drunk driving victims. I've assisted at 6 DUI checkpoints. I've spoken to over 300 high school students." Judge Caprio nods. "And what have you learned, Mr. Holloway?" Chase takes a deep breath. "I learned that I was a coward. I learned that privilege isn't something to hide behind. It's something you should use to help people, not hurt them. I learned that Mrs. Santos is a better person than I'll ever be, because even after what I did to her, she came to one of my victim impact panels and told the students that people can change." His voice breaks slightly. "I learned that my father's name doesn't define me. My actions do. And my actions were shameful." Judge Caprio studies him for a long moment. "And what will you do with what you've learned?" "I'm changing my major," Chase says. "I was studying business because my dad wanted me to go into finance. But I'm switching to social work. I want to work with at-risk youth. I want to prevent people from making the mistakes I made. And after I graduate, I want to continue working with MAD as a volunteer. Not because I have to, because I want to." This is what true justice looks like. Judge Caprio's stern expression finally softens, just slightly. "Mr. Holloway, transformation isn't easy. It requires facing the worst parts of yourself and choosing to be better. I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing. Continue your work." "Thank you, Your Honor," Chase says. "And thank you for not giving up on me when I'd given up on myself." 6 months later, Chase completes his 500 hours. The final event is a public ceremony at the courthouse. Maria Santos is there. So are families from the MAD program. So are the police officers Chase works with. And so is Governor Holloway. When Chase receives his completion certificate, he does something unexpected. He keeps the orange vest. "I'm going to keep this," he tells the assembled crowd. "Not because I have to, because I need to remember. Every time I think I'm better than someone, Every time I'm tempted to use my privilege instead of my character, I'm going to look at this vest and remember who I was and who I never want to be again. The governor hugs his son, tears streaming down his face. I'm proud of you, he whispers. Judge Caprio, watching from the bench, allows himself a small smile. Later, in an interview about the case, Judge Caprio reflects on what happened. Chase Holloway came into my courtroom as a boy who thought his last name was a crown. He left as a young man who understood that character is the only crown that matters. I didn't humiliate him to be cruel. I humiliated him to wake him up. Sometimes the greatest compassion is refusing to enable someone's worst instincts. He pauses, choosing his words carefully. People ask me if the sentence was too harsh. I tell them, Chase Holloway could have killed Maria Santos. He could have killed a child. He could have destroyed families. Compared to that consequence, compared to spending your life knowing you took someone else's life, 500 hours in an orange vest is nothing. It's a gift, an opportunity, a second chance. This story teaches us something profound. Privilege without accountability is poison. It corrupts character. It separates us from our humanity. It makes us believe we're better than others when really, we're just luckier. Chase Holloway learned what millions of people already know, that the measure of a person isn't their last name, their bank account, or their connections. It's how they treat people when they have power over them. It's whether they take responsibility when they fail. It's whether they learn from their mistakes or simply buy their way out of consequences. Judge Frank Caprio didn't destroy Chase Holloway's life. He saved it. He saved him from becoming a person who leaves destruction in his wake and never looks back. He saved him from the empty arrogance that comes from never being told no. He saved him from the isolation that comes from being surrounded by people who fear you but don't respect you. And most importantly, he saved potential future victims, the people Chase might have hurt if he'd never learned this lesson. Every day, people use their privilege to escape consequences. Every day, someone's father, mother, or family name becomes a shield against accountability. Every day, victims are told their suffering matters less than someone else's reputation. But sometimes, just sometimes, the system works exactly as it should. Justice is blind. The law applies equally. And a wise judge understands that true compassion means holding people accountable because you believe they can be better. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear this. Message: share it with someone who's struggling with their own sense of entitlement. Share it with someone who's been victimized by someone else's privilege. Share it with someone who needs to be reminded that no one and no one is above the law. What would you have done if you were Judge Caprio? Como bilo? Was the sentence too harsh? Too lenient? Should Chase have gone to jail instead? Do you believe his transformation was genuine? We want to hear your thoughts. And if you believe in judges like Frank Caprio, judges who balance accountability with opportunity, justice with wisdom, firmness with faith and human potential, then subscribe to this channel. Because we need more stories like this. We need more reminders that the justice system, at its best, doesn't just punish people for who they were. It challenges them to become who they should be. Remember, your character is defined not by the advantages you're given, but by what you choose to do with them. Not by your family name, but by your own actions. Not by how you behave when everyone's watching, but by how you treat people when you think no one will ever know. Chase Holloway wore an orange vest for 500 hours, but he'll carry the lessons he learned for the rest of his life. And that's worth more than any privilege his last name could ever buy.